We are live. We have no viewers, but that's okay because it always starts off this way. Hey, Regi.
Excuse me.
That's all right.
Since nobody's here, we can like pick our nose.
I
Hey,
know.
Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you.
I don't normally dress up, but I thought, I would say I'd normally dress up for you, but I was actually at a gig this morning. But I didn't down dress for you. So that's a good thing, right?
Simon, I combed my hair.
You did?
Uh-huh.
I spat in mine and stuck it down.
Yeah, there you go.
I love your hair. It's so fluffy.
I know. It's like a nest.
It is. Wow.
Hello. Hi, Scott.
Oh.
You're looking good, Simon. Apparently I'm not, but you are. And you
are. Scott, come on. So Scott, we were just talking about Camp ! And Scott is the one of the directors there.
Oh,
he's a great guy.
Nice.
And Mo Reynolds. Do you know Mo Reynolds?
I don't recognize the name, but I might know. Is it a man or a woman?
It's a woman. Her name is Morgan.
Oh no, I don't know her.
She's up in Montana, right next to Canada, and she is absolutely brilliant. So Scott's talking to you now.
Scott.
He said he couldn't type fast enough. Something about that go button, Scott.
Montana is the least populated state in America.
Is that true?
It has 500,000 people who live there. The least populated with I think, one of the most land masses of any state.
Apart from Alaska.
Yeah. And then yeah, I don't know. I'm not that smart geographically. The reason I know that is because I had to look it up yesterday because my friend's son is driving through there. And we have more cattle than people. Yeah.
Way more. I know. Actually, when I worked in corporate America, I had a client who was out in Montana in Bozeman. And he said, anytime you want to come out, Simon, you can come and visit anytime. And that was when I was working in Portland, Oregon. So I don't know if that's a Bozeman accent or not. It was just a really bad American accent.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful there. I did that Sweet Pea Festival, and it really is that big sky.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. Hi, Sarah.
It's nice to see you with us, Sarah. So I'm going to close in a little bit. Then we can see our faces and we can still see your angel. You're kind of leaning out of the picture.
Oh, okay.
And what's that one there? What have you got there?
A little wind up.
Sounds kind of menacing, but it looks really nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's all sorts of stuff I put in there. I put little trinkets.
I know. So you were saying that. Do those wings cover it up completely?
No, just this one moves.
Oh, okay. And then you pull the leg. Oh, your leg goes up. Okay.
Isn't that clever?
It is clever. I like that a lot.
My friend Jane Dennis made it.
Nice.
She's brilliant.
Does she make a lot of that kind of stuff?
She used to. Now I'm not sure what she's making now. I haven't seen it recently.
Okay.
She made my very first. I created a trunk show called Venus and the Amazing Two-Footed Circus. And I was Venus, goddess of love and beauty. And she made these 3 trunks for me, and we had so much fun. And the story was called How the very first 3-ring circus was created. And it was really, really fun. And I traveled all around telling that story. So I'd go to schools and I'd bring out the costumes. And then this is a great story. So I got a small grant to go to rural areas in northern New York, where I'm from Ben and Jerry's. And I was doing this backyard party. And I picked this guy, and I told that story. I said, Ben and Jerry's, gave me money so I could do the show. And it turned out that I had picked Ben to be the main character.
Oh, no way. And you had no idea?
No, I had no idea. It was so cool. I think we got a lot of ice cream from that too.
I bet. And that they make really. We've been on their fact because they're just up the road from us in Vermont, and so we used to go more often. I mean, the kids are grown up now, but when it was kind of like it's summer, we're bored, we don't know what to do. Let's go to Ben and Jerry's. It's a like 2-hour drive, but it's okay.
Oh, yeah. After the tour, do you get a taste?
Sorry?
Do you get a taste after the tour?
Oh yeah. You get a little taste, and then they've got like a big store there as well, so you can buy Ben and Jerry socks and T-shirts and scoops and ice cream up the gazoo. So you get a little tiny taster, and then you go in line with everybody else, and you buy like big ice cream, and that's just
cardiovascular doctor.
Okay, so I'm a big Ben and Jerry's fan, and I would quite easily get through a pint in 2 or 3 days. And I went and at age 50, I just turned 56. Age 50, I went to have my physical. No, it was before then, actually. I was in my 40s, and I had a little thing going on, which I thought I was having a heart attack or something, and it wasn't that at all. And they did a whole bunch of tests, and apparently my doctor said, you should have had a heart attack based on the cholesterol that's in your body. And he says, do you eat much ice cream? I was like, yeah, I eat Ben and Jerry's most nights. And he said, you might want to stop that for a while. Let's see what happens when you stop eating Ben and Jerry's. Cut out as much dairy as you can. And sure enough,
went down.
It went way down and went back to like a normal level. So I very rarely treat myself to Ben and Jerry's, because when I look at the cholesterol, because it's like the best ice cream with the best ingredients, it's like super high. Oh. So the next best one is like half the amount of cholesterol. So I eat Giffords, but not very much. So Sarah was asking whereabouts in upstate New York you come from, because she's in Albany.
Thanks for asking. I come from a little town in northern New York. I live in Ithaca now, but I come from a little town in northern New York called Clayton, which is on the St. Lawrence River. And it is, it's in my hometown. It's right where the St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario meet. It's at the mouth of the river. That's where I grew up.
So is it a tiny place?
It's getting bigger. It's like 5,000 people now.
Wow.
But that's the surrounding area. The town is very, very small. When I was growing up, I think it was maybe 1,000, 1,500.
Okay.
But they expanded the base, Fort Drum. They expanded the Army base near there, so it's much, much bigger, so more people live there. The base, when I was a kid, we used to go on the base because my dad was a veteran, and we would go and buy our groceries there and clothes and stuff because it didn't have any taxes. And it was just a little thing, just a tiny little thing. But now it's a huge base. So, there's a lot more people up there now. It used to get the kind of weather that people would encounter in Afghanistan, but it doesn't get that kind of snow anymore. So they would go and train there.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know that. That's similar to Afghanistan. That's interesting.
Yep. Cold.
Yeah. So my wife, she comes from Oneida, which isn't that far away from
New York.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never been there.
And it's if you're going down the thruway, you kind of drive through Rome, and then keep going a little bit further and exit 33, Oneida. Boom, you're there.
Oh, I have been there. I performed there. Clayton is the other way. It's towards Rochester and Buffalo.
Right. So you're going.
I'm all the way up. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you hit Syracuse, is that where the turn is?
In Syracuse, you would turn to go to Utica, to Oneida, but I just keep going straight.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you up to these days?
Well,
Regi Carpenter, you got Timpanogos coming up, right?
I feel cheated though. I wanted to
bet.
go there so badly. Yeah, I am very grateful. I've got Timpanogos coming up. I've got a show with Noah Baum coming up on the 9th. I've got a Snake River Storytelling Festival. We're doing something on the 15th, which is my birthday. Are you doing it then as well? Oh, yeah.
I'm doing a workshop, yeah.
Yeah, I am. And then my son's getting married on September.
Yay.
So
On September what?
6th.
6th. Ah, right at the beginning. That's a nice time of year.
Oh, it's going to be wonderful. Both
Yeah.
my kids got married very quickly. There wasn't any of this prolonged engagement and, yada, yada. No, they just got married. So it was great. So we didn't
You're
have,
the one. Let's do it.
any anxiety.
That's excellent.
We didn't have any like fights or anything over any of it. It was just like, what do you want? Okay, let's do that. That sounds good. Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, really great.
So how old is he?
27.
Nice. That's a good age.
Yeah.
And how old's his bride to be?
Same age. She's a couple months older than him.
Oh, really? She goes after the older man, does she?
Yeah. We went to high school together. So, yeah.
That's so cool.
I couldn't be happier.
Is
She's
the-
wonderful. Both my sons married amazing women. I'm
Yeah.
so happy.
So
But what are you up to these days?
me? Oh, not too much. I'm going to be emceeing for Timpanogos, which I really need to get on because that's going to be recorded. How long did it take you to record your set or sets?
Well, so it's something like 6.5 hours.
Okay.
It took me about 3 days.
Wow. And so how did you do that? You just sit down and tell stories kind of like this?
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, basically.
How was
our clothes in between?
Mate, how was your backside at the end? Must have been pretty sore from all that sitting.
Oh. Well, I was freaking out because we had a meeting. So we had a meeting. Will Timpanogos be live or pre-recorded or both? It will be both. It's much of it, Mo, is going to be pre-recorded, but then we are recording some things that will be live when they're recorded, and then they'll be, yeah. So
that would be kind of like the Olios and the big set pieces.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that would be fun.
It'll be really fun. So the Friday night laughing night,
spooky stories.
The spooky stories, yeah, they'll be out. They'll be live recorded, and bedtime stories for the little kids will be live recorded.
Nice. Yeah. I want to do bedtime stories.
What would you tell?
I don't know. Probably, I don't know. Goldilocks would wake them all up and get them all excited. I don't know. I'd have to think about. But I don't know. I love telling kids stories, and I think it would force me to tell, or it would force me to search some good bedtime stories, which I don't. I'm a bit of a loony when I'm telling stories and bounce around too much for it to be bedtime. It's more of a like get up and have your cornflake story for me. Dear. So let's talk about you. People don't know what they don't care about me. They came here to see you.
True. Talk about me. What else do you want to know?
So Hatch. So the picture that I pulled up that I used here.
Oh, right. Yeah. Dee Hatch. She's been my photographer. Isn't that fabulous?
Yeah, I love that shot. It's such a cool photograph. So what's the story behind that photo?
Story behind that photo. Well, I was doing my book, and I knew when I was writing it what I wanted the cover to look like.
Uh-huh.
I knew I wanted it. Oh, I have a copy of it right here.
Oh, there's a coinky dink.
I have a computer on it.
Is it holding the laptop up?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Hang on. Let me open it up a bit. Let's put you up there. Boop. There we go.
Okay, so that's my book. And I knew I wanted this image. I could see it in my mind. I knew everything about this image. I knew I wanted to look like Church Lady Gone Wrong. And I knew the outfit that I wanted. I knew what I wanted my hair to look like and my makeup. I knew everything that I wanted. So I went looking, and one Saturday I was like drawn, and this happens to me quite a bit. I was just absolutely drawn. I was like, okay, I'm going to find my outfit in this store. And I did. And it was exactly that outfit. I knew what I wanted. And then I found the hat. And then I went to my hairdressers and she sprayed my face on. They do this really weird stuff now where they spray paint your face with makeup. And and the makeup is really heavy. And when she was done, she held up the little mirror and she said, "So, how does it look?" And I said, "Well, it looks like Joan Crawford meets Dracula."
Oh no, that's not true.
It was like, so she was like, "A little heavy. Do we need more lipstick?" I was like, "Sure, go for it." So then I went over to Dee Dee's, and Dee Dee doesn't have a studio. She always shoots out like live locations, you know.
Right.
And behind her, she has her creating very repetitive breakfast in bed stories while drifting off to sleep was always my modus. I hear you, Sarah. But anyway, so we went behind her building. She works in this industrial building. So it's got, so what you don't see behind that door is the sign that says no trespassing. Electrical outlets, that you could get electrocuted if you enter that door. And when she took that photo, we were goofing around. So I was doing this kind of thing. And then the wind gusted up and my hair blew back. And that was really, really, really fun. Yeah. So that's how I got the photo. Dee Dee does all my photos.
Up until now.
That's right, because you and I are going to do something.
We are. So Mo, she likes her lipstick. She likes to contrast her head bandana, which is bright red, with her red lipstick. You two should meet, because I think you get on like a house on fire. So Mo, I'd like you to meet Regi Carpenter. Regi Carpenter, meet Mo Reynolds.
Nice.
She's a fabulous lady. She's funny as all heck.
Where do you live, Mo?
Well, we'll let her. It'll be a while before she responds because of the delay. But she's the one that lives up in Montana on the Canadian border.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah. She lives like, I think they're the only people there, and everything else is like bears. Oh. So you two, we'll have to make it happen that you two get to meet together.
Okay. Well, Simon, when was the very first time you ever heard me tell a story?
I think it was at Sharing the Fire.
Oh, quite a while ago then, eh?
Yeah, it was. And it was because it was, I don't know, maybe it wasn't. No, I think I heard you tell a story. Now this is going back. I think it was Three Apples Festival.
Oh gosh, that was a long time. That was one of the first festivals I ever did, and I was so nervous.
That was the same for me. Yeah, I was absolutely terrified. Well, not terrified, but I was, anxious. But I think that was the first time that I saw you, and then I saw you again in Albany at Sharing the Fire.
Oh, right.
And I think we might have crossed paths once in between then.
Mm-hmm.
But when I listened to your stories, they just blew me away. I mean, the power that you have. I mean, as I was advertising this, one of the thing that I said at the bottom, I don't know if you saw that, one of the bravest storytellers I know, because you've been so honest and truthful about your life experiences, but you don't make them sound mawkish or, oh, poor me. You actually pull out some real depth and meaning to what's going on. And it's just, I've seen some personal storytellers who are just like, this is really self-indulgent, and it doesn't do anything, it doesn't touch me at all. But people like you and Meg Gilman is another one. They just hits me so much strength and power in the stories. There's, like when we were at Stone Soup last year, and it was amazing. I'm just sitting there gobsmacked. So I really think you're an incredible. And then your folk and fairy tales, I love them. Like when we're at the White Mountain Storytelling Festival, and you said this one's for Simon, and it was like,
Yeah.
yay!
Yes, it occurred to me that you'd never heard me tell really.
Well, I never heard you tell folk and fairy tales. I'd only heard you do personal narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we got some comments. So Andrea was also at the Sharing the Fire, and Alan DeBay, he saw in 2009 at NSN Storytelling Festival. Andrea said that you are stunning.
Thank you.
And what did she say? And the sad walk to the nightmare show.
In the sad hotel.
I'm not sure about that. Yeah, the hotel.
That in Albany.
Yes.
That one, Sarah? God, that was so depressing.
That was, yes. I know. I was looking for Norman Bates at one point.
And they had given us, did you get the bag of candy and cookies?
Yep.
I was like, that place was so depressing. I just sat in the bed and went, and of course I felt sick. Oh, man.
That was a funny one. I got on the freeway the wrong way. Sorry?
All these volunteers work so hard to give us a chance to do something that, we want,
Yeah.
And so if a hotel is a little funky, that's okay.
It is okay.
Because they're putting in a lot of hours for us.
They are.
So
they are. And they get very little credit. I know that Joey Talbot, she ran, I think she might have been heading out the volunteers when in Albany, I'm not sure. But she was doing it for a long time, and she had an amazing team of people running the show.
Yeah, that's Sharing the Fire. Oh, that's right.
Yes, I couldn't remember what disease it was. I'm glad you said. I didn't want to say it online because,
Oh, that's right. I've forgotten about that. And then the water heater, remember that?
Yeah, it was very exciting. Oh, very exciting. So what's your...
I was at a festival last year where a guy died.
No.
Yeah, after the festival, he killed out of his wheelchair, and he was dead. And it was horrible. I mean, I may have to put it in a story sometime, but now it's kind of funny. But
well, there's also that story in was it Jonesboro?
Which one? Oh my God! Remember that guy?
Yes.
Why did this happen to me? Because I'm lucky. That's
you are lucky. You have all these great stories happening to you.
I know. Your life is the best. Oh right, yeah. So I was telling that It's All Going to the Dogs show. Remember that crazy guy walked up to the front?
He's got a poster.
Yeah, he's got a poster. He handed the poster to my sister.
After he handed it to me, and I was like, "Stop! You got to." Yeah, he handed it to me. He's like, "Are you Regi Carpenter?" I'm like, "No," and I just didn't want to tell him that it was you on the stage. I was like, "I'm not gonna."
What would have happened?
I don't know.
Interesting.
Right.
I would have made him sing. But anyway, so then I'll tell you guys the story because Simon was there and he knows it. So yes. I was telling a brand new show called It's All Going to the Dogs, which I just did live a couple of weeks ago. And so I'm not very far into the show when this gentleman who looks just a little odd, but he wasn't bringing a lot of attention to himself. He walked up the main aisle or the side aisle where the artists sit and their families, and he handed I guess Simon a sign, and then Simon rejected it, and then he handed it to my sister, and she took it, and then he turned around, and there were these security guys kind of shadowing him. And at that point, I was thinking, oh, that's right. Then I was into the story that I call hoop skirt hell, because I get caught in this hoop skirt in a porta potty. And I know, right? I'm so lucky. And then the guy, they're like trying to get him out, and then he wigs out. Apparently he's all skied up on drugs, and he grabs the back pole and he starts pulling it out, and there's 5 or 6 officers on top of him, and he starts to yell. And so the audience is beginning to drift, right? And my job is to keep everybody focused and to not notice that. So I just said, let's everybody just focus on the story. And as soon as I said that, it was really interesting. Everybody just kind of went, "Phew." And in the back, I was observing this kind of horrendous takedown of this man who was extraordinarily strong, I think, from result of the drugs and that he was in. And then I found out that they had put him in the police car and he had kicked out the windows. And yeah, wow, what an experience.
After he had been tasered 6 times.
Oh, no.
Yes.
I think that's because of the drugs in his system.
It must have been.
Something to the heart where you can't.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's cocaine or something where you can't, you're not feeling your sensations.
Yeah, I don't know. But he was, because one of the officers came over to the hotel afterwards to check up on you.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was super nice. And the guy, he was excellent. He was such a nice cop. And I said, I don't suppose you have a spare badge, do you? Because my barber in town, he collects badges of police badges. And so he said, no, but no, he says, I don't. But he came back to the hotel and with a new badge for me, which I then gave to my barber who collects these things.
Oh, yeah.
And I gave him the story about, why he, the whole interaction. And he told me, it was like, yeah, we tased him. I think it was like 5 or 6 times. And he still was able to kick out the back window of the cruiser. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah. Oh, what did the sign say?
I think it was wasn't it a poster? I thought it was a poster, like a Timpanogos or a Jones poster. I don't know
what it said, so let's make up what it said. It said Regi Carpenter is out of this world.
The bravest storyteller in the world.
What do you think the sign said? You can be quiet.
Come on, Sarah, you got to tell us. Yeah, it was actually a poster, but yeah, I think it was one of the Jonesboro annual picture posters. Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah, and I think I think the reason why the security guards were following him was that he might have borrowed it and not paid for it. I think that's what might have happened. But yeah, that was the power that you had over that audience was incredible, and it was just as Regi said. She said, let's focus on the story, and everybody was like facing the back of the room at this point. Mm-hmm. And everybody slowly turned back round, and it was just like this back to Regi. It was one of the most magical, surreal experience that I'd ever had, and I think that speaks a lot to you and the power that you bring to your storytelling. Mm. I like what Mo said.
Oh, actually, Mo, you know what? When I was the first time I went to the festival, when I was younger and still like reasonably pretty, this guy did ask me to marry him, and then he gave me a lollipop ring.
No way.
So I turned him down.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You broke his heart. You're a heartbreaker, aren't you?
What else was I going to tell you? Yeah, I've had all sorts of good things happen to me like that. I'm just lucky.
You are. You started to tell us about the guy who fell out of a wheelchair and died.
Oh, that poor man. Oh, yeah.
That sounds like a sad story, though.
It actually really was. But so it was Bill Lapp, Andy, and myself, and the man had fallen out of his wheelchair, and they started doing CPR on him and resuscitating him. And man, those guys, I had so much respect for those guys. They just kept at it for the longest time until the medics came. And it was one of those festivals, you've probably been to these, Simon, where the cars are on the perimeter and then you have to walk in. And so it wasn't that easy to get in. Mm-hmm. And so we saw the ambulance coming, but then we saw it sort of trying to get down.
Like off roads to the...
Yeah.
Wow.
it was pretty terrifying, actually. It was pretty traumatic. And again, I love this community because the next day it was announced, and then everyone, took time and they said a prayer for him, and then they took time to tell stories about life and death, and everybody kind of tied it in. So it was kind of a service to that man.
Wow, that's really cool. We
Yeah,
do have a good community.
it's an amazing community.
It's
And
one of the best.
I did listen to him. And the woman, that short woman, wasn't she wonderful? She was talking about how she introduced John Lewis to his wife at the eulogy yesterday at the service.
I missed that. I'll have to go back and watch it. And of course, Sarah De Beer, who's absolutely brilliant at this kind of stuff, has provided us with the YouTube link. Yay! Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what I was going to tell you was the very first time I went to the National Festival, I had asked my friends, I wrote a number of my friends, and I said, this is my first time going. What do I need to know? What's the code of this festival? Because every festival has its own culture. And I wanted to know what this culture was. And I also realized that I wanted to do really well, and that it could take me to a place that I wanted to be. And at the same time, nothing could happen, right?
Yeah, right.
And one woman wrote me and said, make sure you have really comfortable shoes. Right?
Yes.
Second one said, make sure you pull out your best material Friday night for the oleo, because that's when people are deciding who they're going to see.
Ah.
So, and then another woman said, make sure you walk every stage before you go on. Spend Thursday walking each stage so you're familiar with the space. And then I don't know who taught me this, if it was Brother Blue or where I heard this, but it may have been Donald Davis. I don't remember. It may have been Donald Davis talking about volume of energy, that when you're with a small group, maybe of young children, you don't want to blast them with a lot of energy. You've got to just, be smaller. You have to not overwhelm them.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but when you're in a crowd of like 1,000, and I'm not sure this was Donald that said it, I got this image of me casting a net of energy, and I'm pulling everyone in, because it's like I've got to have everybody coming into the center. And so when that was happening, I thought, I've got to cast my net. And in my mind, I just kind of went, and it worked.
Wow.
And it always works. It always works. It's just sort of like, I can feel it, right now as I'm doing it. It's just, it's for a big crowd, because you've got to, the energy coming out has got to be able to caress every single person in that crowd.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that's a hard group because they're very diverse as well. Because I've seen storytellers tell very, like Nestor, right? He got up and told a story about being an not knowing that he was an illegal immigrant. And I'm watching these people in the front row, and they were they shut down immediately. And they just didn't have anything. They didn't want to hear what he had to say, which is a real shame, because he thought as a kid that he was, legally there. And then to discover that he wasn't when he went to get his driver's license was a huge shock to him. And then the whole process of trying to become a legal immigrant. And, it was an amazingly powerful story. And in that tent, half of the audience rose and were, standing ovation, and the other half was sitting there like this. And it was, to be able to throw that net and grab everyone is quite something. And I saw that in Jonesboro with you. It was absolutely brilliant. Is there any specific material that the net is made of? Sarah, stop being silly.
Hi, Tony. Nice to see you. Shall we answer Mo's question, Simon?
What is Mo's question? Let me have a look. Simon and Reggie, if you have the time, what advice would you offer a new trying to break out? I hate it when I break out. You know, you got to put all that lotion on your face,
I wasn't going
and you end up like all itchy. And I try not to break out if possible.
What would your advice be?
Based on my own experience, it would have to have material before you break out, because you know it was 2018 and 2019. I did Jonesboro and Timpanogos, and I did the Exchange Place, and I got back to Jonesboro the second time, second following the following year. And there was also the Florida Storytelling Festival and Stone Soup, and I gave myself a challenge of not repeating stories at any of these festivals. And I found out very quickly that I need to keep learning more material, and that I can't, I'll learn like 3 or 4 new stories a year usually, but to be on the big network, the story, you need like 8 stories at least. 10 stories is every year is what you want to add, because you're going to blow through those at a festival. And I think, I can't remember if it was Timpanogos or Jonesboro that said that they didn't want to hear any stories that have been performed within the last 5 years. Which is, that's what I heard. I mean, that's, that's just not quite slander, but it's it's what I've heard. So I don't know whether that's true or not, or if that was, it's something that they're thinking about. But yeah, it's have you been charging your own batteries during our virus time? Not really. No, I've been working flat out. Not all of it's paid either. What about you, Reggie?
Oh, well, I'll do you mind if I answer Mo's question?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. God, what an appalling host I am. Jeez.
That's a great question. And well, it may be kind of a complicated answer for me. First, and I'll go back, again, in 2009, when I went to the Storytelling Festival in Jonesboro for the first time, I thought, I might really blow it here. And if I'm going to blow it, I'm going to blow it on my own terms. And I'm just going to be myself, because people were telling me, oh, Reggie, they're not going to like your stuff because, you're not flat out funny, and you got to be funny, and I'm funny, but I'm not just funny,
right?
And I thought, I could really bomb, but if I'm going to bomb, I'm going to bomb on my own terms, because this festival is just one weekend, and I'm going to live a lot longer than this, and I have to put my own head on my own pillow every night. So doing something to, quote unquote, break out is not, I don't think that's a sustainable model. Doing something that is meaningful to you, that is fun, that is enjoyable, that gives your life, a rock, a foundation, that to me is a foundational skill. Always tell the stories that you are drawn to, whether they're commercially viable or not. I would say finding your own voice is really, really important, and finding your own style is really important. Not trying to think you have to be like anybody else, and knowing that your worth as a person and teller isn't bound up in the cost of your programming, that you're not better because you make more money. And that is what I would say. And I would also say something that, you know, the folk and fairy tales are the bread and butter. They are the classic literature. And every storyteller needs to know them and be able to really cite them and understand their structure, symbology, language, function, both, you know, in a fantasy realm, and then be able to translate that or transfer it into personal story structure. So, you know, the traditional work is it's our repertoire, and you have to have a really big repertoire, not necessarily to tell, but to reference. You know, always to reference. And so it's really something to dedicate oneself to. It's a course of study. It's not just something to feel good. We've all seen storytellers who tell because they want attention, and that's, you know, we all need attention. We all need to be acknowledged and applauded. It's just a need. But there is a greater need that the storyteller functions within, and that greater need is to be the spokesperson for a universe of need and longing, and so working on yourself as a person, working on yourself as a teller. These are all skills. They're all skills. So, you know, storytelling is a skill, and like any skill, you can get better at it. And you know, you got to practice your ass off. I mean, there's no joke about it. It's just, it's a lot of work. And it's a lot of, you know, ass and seat. And, you know, there's, when it's being done well, it looks like it's easy, and that's how it should look. But it's not as easy as it looks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you know, to add to what, I mean, I agree 100%, 150% with everything you just said, Regi. And maybe trying to break out is not something you should, it should be, it could be a goal. It should be a goal, but I don't think it's something that you should really push for, I think. I think that
also, having goals, like I think, Sarah, I think that, you know, I did have goals because
you need goals.
Well, you know, I remember I was doing a show in a cafeteria, and I thought, you know, I could spend my life doing a show in a cafeteria and get paid $250. And there would be nothing wrong with that. But that's not what I want, you know? And I make no bones about trying to be ambitious. I really, you know, I want to travel around the world. I want to be at the best festivals. And it's not just that I want it. I want to do it because I know that I want to be that disciplined. I want to be that courageous. I really, you know, and it doesn't matter what your goal is. Just, you've got to have them, because it's just like any other thing in life. If you don't have any goals, you know, you'll never get, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there.
Right.
So, like when I went to national, you know, for the first time, people said, you've got to have something like 8 hours of material. And that's a lot of material. And so I was like, okay, let's time it out. How much have I got? How much do I need? Timpanogos, somebody said, you got to have 9 hours of material. Well, at this point, I've got, you know, a ridiculous amount of material, but it's not, you know, it's not all of it is appropriate for Timpanogos, because as I'm getting older, I'm finding my stories are just a little saucier. And so anyway, it's just, it's your voice, you know, the storyteller. It's not just the voice, it's your voice, And that's what matters, because you are so important. You know, there's only one person in the world who can tell a story like you, and that's you. And that's your joy and your responsibility. So,
and that's where your authenticity is going to come from too. And when, especially, I mean, Mo tells a lot of to a lot of kids, and kids will spot a lack of authenticity before any adult will.
they smell it.
They smell it. They smell it walking into the room, right? What's that old saying? You can dazzle them with brilliance, but you can baffle them with bullshit. You know, or if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, but you can baffle them with bullshit, that does not apply to kids. That is just adults that applies to. They can smell it a mile off.
Jane is a lovely teller.
She
Wonderful
is
person.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
do you think that as you get older, you'll kind of get into that mindset of like, you know, I really don't give a hoot anymore, to be polite? And I'm gonna
no, because I do.
Okay.
You know, I would never tell someone my pieces at Timpanogos because they would be offended.
Well, yeah, I get that, but maybe I phrased what I said a bit inaccurately. So as we get older, I think we claim who we are more, and we're not shy about it, and we grab hold of it by the horns and wrestle with it more than we did when we were younger, and we were just like superheroes in our own minds, and we just like, ta-da, let's do this and let's try that and let's do the other. And as we get older, we kind of like, I'm too tired to do this anymore. And you start to look at yourself and think, oh, okay, then so I could be a better person. And as we get older, still, it's kind of like, you know, I like the way that I am, and if people don't accept me for who I am, then that's fine. That's okay. It's not being disrespectful. It's being more comfortable in your own skin. And like, you know, there are some stories I wouldn't tell at Timpanogos as well, you know, folk and fairy tales, because, you know, they would be offended. And Jonesboro also, there's probably some stories I wouldn't tell at Jonesboro. So.
Well, there's all kinds of ways to get around that.
That's true.
Well, something that I've become more comfortable with, I think, is I think it was a couple of years ago this year that I taught the Summer Institute at ETSU. And at the end of the week, you know, they have a survey, and everybody says, you know, their impressions. And this one guy said, I don't really like her stories. And you know, of course, I was like, oh my God. But then I sat down and I went, well, wait a minute. I don't like everybody's tellings. It doesn't mean they aren't good. It just means they're not my teller. And I think I've become more comfortable with accepting that not everybody's going to like what I do, no matter how well I do it. But again, that really doesn't matter. Because the stories that I need to tell, and there's plenty of room in the world for all of us. And, we grow most by learning what we don't like, really.
Yeah. Because then you have to move on and try something else. Yeah, I agree with that. So Andrea has just said, my 8-year-old, I got to read this because you mentioned her 8-year-old, just told me she didn't like one of my stories to the extent that when I asked her if there was any parts she liked, she said, no, not really. Yeah. So I'll give you an example of that. And that's fine. It's all good. Thank you for sharing that, Andrea.
Yeah, I love that.
So one of my wife's best friends from high school, you know, they're still in touch with each other. He's a great guy, Matt McKay. He's an awesome dude. He and I met and we got on like a house on fire. I got a lot of respect for this guy. and he would suggest books to me. Oh, not her kid, an 8-year-old child. So you were talking about yourself. Okay, then I got it. Right. Sorry, Andrea. I misunderstood what you were saying. My bad. Yeah, I thought they were. You got one younger one. Anyway, so he said you got to read Mexicala Beans. And so I was like, okay. So I found, I got picked up a used copy of the book and I started reading it. And every book he'd given me to that point, I've been like, this is a great book. And I'm reading Mexicala Beans, and I'm like, I hate this character that it's about. This is a whiny, complaining protagonist. And I got about a third of the way in the book, and I was just like, I am not going to waste I can't stand this guy. And I threw the book across the room, right? And I'll never read any more of the, I can't read that book. But after I threw that book across the room, I was like, oh my God, this is such good writing, because I had this visceral, this visceral reaction to the main character in this book. And it's like, there's no way, if I met this character, there's some characters in books, you're like, oh, I'd love to have met this person, This guy would have been like, I would have crossed the street to have avoided. Yeah. And it's like, it's like our craft, it's like not everybody likes Odds Bodkin, not everybody likes me, not everybody likes you. And that's okay, because, when Mo and I were performing at the Florida Storytelling Festival in January, each one of us spoke to, as a group, we all spoke to the whole audience. But there were people in that audience who are Jeff Doyle's people, right? Oh. There were people in the audience who were Mo Reynolds' people, and there were my people, and there were everybody else's people, Diane Macklin's people, right? And Pete's people. Although I think Pete just won everybody over because he's like such a nice guy, Pete Abdella. But yeah, it's this is a really good conversation.
Oh,
This is phenomenal.
Now I'm the villain in your history. I was too young and blind to see. The world was wide enough for both Hamilton and me. Yeah, exactly. She's quoting Hamilton.
Okay.
Alan and I were just on Don White's Thursday night show. He's a singer and a storyteller. And Alan told a great story, telling at the open. So you were in the, what do they call that? The something place?
The swapping place?
Swapping ground.
Swapping ground, yeah. Is that right?
Is that it? I'm not sure.
Oh, no, yeah, anyway, we know what we're talking about. It's where people swap stories.
I've had my fair share of bombing. I once had an acting teacher tell me I had no talent in front of the whole class. He said, a 4-year-old could do better than you. And I was so hurt, but then something inside of me went, well, let's find out if that's true.
Yeah.
And it's not about failing, it's about getting up.
Yeah, it is about standing up and putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
So
what are you doing to recharge? Going back to Tony's question, what are you doing to recharge your batteries, or are you just so flat out doing stuff like recording 6 hours for Timpanogos?
Yes, actually, that was so much fun.
Oh yeah,
because there was a lot of material. I decided that I would tell my earlier material, and because I hadn't told it in a long time, and I just kind of wanted to reconnect with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, it so energized me. And I also, some of those stories are 15 years old, and I haven't told them in a good while. And it was as if I could really hear my own story.
Oh, wow.
I really was like, oh, this is so interesting. Oh, I forgot about that. And
so you were astral planing your own story.
It was fantastic.
Wow.
And I also have really enjoyed learning this new technology. It is not, it's crazy. It's aggravating, but it's exciting to learn something new,
It is.
And also we got to stay alive. So
yes. Or be very, very, very good at yoga.
So what else do I do? I like to walk a lot, Tony. I really like to walk. I go outside, I garden.
Do you grow things?
Yeah,
I mean, like things that you can eat. Sorry, that was a
yeah.
stupid question. Of course, you grow things if you like to garden. Do you grow edible vegetables and stuff like that?
Yeah, I just planted some beets. I had chard and green beans the other night, and yeah. So let's see. Scott's asking, do you think it feels sad and lonely while it waits for you? No, it's got plenty of company.
I've not seen that message. Where is that?
It's Scott. It's
Oh, there we go. No, well, I mean, one of the things I think of with stories is that, and I've said this many times, they're kind of like errant children. You might go with an idea of telling a story, and then that story goes, no, I don't want to be told. And even though you might have practiced it on the way to a gig, and you've been telling that story for months, and you get up on the stage or you get in front of the audience and you go to tell the story and something else comes out of your mouth and it's like, no, that's not the story I want. That happened to me at Connecticut Storytelling Festival. I ran through the story with Megan Hicks and I went up, got on stage, and this other story came out of my mouth. And I was horrified because this is the first time I'd been at first and only time, probably for a reason, at the Connecticut Storytelling Festival. And I felt mortified because it was like, no, I didn't mean to do this. Was an accident. And I just kept going with the story because I didn't want to ruin the flow and break it up and say no. And I also didn't want to run over time by stopping and starting again,
Right. Yeah, of course.
Right. And so, yeah, they're like kids. And there are other ones that are like, no, I don't want to be told. And there'll be another one going, me, tell me. So they all have their quiet time and they all have their rambunctious moments. At least I feel that's how it is for me with my stories. Do you have that?
Was that a sincere question, Scott, or were you being funny? Yeah, I do have.
I like Tony's comments.
My garden, I'd be much skinnier.
I think his comment I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, but is it because you'd only be able to live off dandelion wine? Is that what it is?
Well, for me, in terms of, I don't know how other tellers work, but I try to have, I try to connect my pieces by theme. I believe that as a teller, as a woman, that there have been central themes in my life. The theme of abandonment, the theme of resurrection, themes of poverty, spiritual themes. And so I kind of grid my stories out in that way. And so to answer your question, Scott, I don't think they actually get lonely because they have the other stories are informing them and protecting them. So, and as far as, I used to think that, Simon, about tell me, like, oh, I'll know the right one to tell. But what I found was that I was telling the same ones over and over again because I had been telling them a lot. And I kind of had to say, you know what, you guys got to shut up for a little bit. I gotta keep growing. I have to keep myself. So
I found that I think that's what I dawned on me last year when I was doing these festivals. It's like there are these go-to stories that aren't really go-to stories, but when I look back through my list of where I've been, what I've told, and all that kind of stuff, it's like, wow, maybe it's time that it's time for them to rest. They've been working really hard, and they need a bathtub to like lay down in. So yeah,
you're welcome, Scott. Thank you.
Well, so this is interesting. I know Simon has a lot of stories, and I don't know if I could remember them all if I had so many. So if I didn't tell them, it would already be they get lost, which struck me as a sad thought. Um, yeah, and there are people that have. I can't. Money and numbers is not my. Do you have something that you're not good at, Reggie? Something that like you're
One
not.
thing I'm good at.
You raised two kids. From your stories, I would say that you must have been a pretty attentive mother.
No, I get along with my children very well. I love them very much. They when they were little, I was just starting to learn some stories, and they would stop me. I would tell them stories when they were in the tub because they were like captive, and my eldest son would say, "No, mommy, use your storyteller's voice." So they actually were the ones who steered my early repertoire, because I would read them something, or I would tell a little something of something to them, and if they said, "Tell me again," 3 times in a row, I was like, "That's a story I need to learn."
Yeah.
And that's how I did it in the beginning. Yeah. And
There's,
then my dad would often do that too, because my dad loved folk and fairy tales, and he would laugh and laugh, and he'd say, "Oh, that was a good story." Well, and I was like, "Okay, those are keepers. Those are keepers."
yeah. There's a couple of stories that kind of flip that around for me. There was a story that I was told that was kids love it,
Uh-huh.
and I read it and I was like, I don't see this. I don't see this at all, and I don't know why kids would love it. And I went up to my son, who was a lot younger than 20 at the time. I think he was probably 12 or something like that. And I was like, I'm going to read you this story, and you can tell me what you think. And he said, I love it. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm not going to give you the name. I don't think I'm going to give you the name of the story. So I went over the story with him. Like, what did you like about it? Like, where did it strike you inside? You know, what kind of, what is it about the story that you like? And so I then sat down, and I think it was just the way that it was written. It wasn't my way of telling a story. And so I had to rework the story to work for me. And then I found that I did like it.
But what was it?
It was Black Bubblegum. But
Yeah.
so it's a story that hang on, it's a story. It's based on a John Steinbeck story. I have the whole background of the story. It's based on a John Steinbeck story, and it was rewritten by, and I have it written down because I always like to give credit. It was written by Francis Caffrey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mary Hamilton and Cynthia Shangaris told it. And I wrote, I can't remember who it was. It was either Mary or Cynthia that I wrote to and said, I know this story. Is it okay if I tell it? Because Karen Chase was the one that gave it to me. Mm-hmm. And when I heard that it was a John Steinbeck story, I was like, all right, I'm going to, try and do my due diligence. And it's like, well, what is it from that story that she got for this story? Mm-hmm. And it was a question of digging around and playing with it and seeing John Steinbeck's version and then reading that other version and being like, okay. And then like, what about, it's a Halloween story. And so how can I tie my kids into this story and my emotional tie to Halloween and all that kind of thing? Because when I was growing up, Halloween wasn't very big in the UK. It was an American holiday. And now it's like an international, everyone does it. Mm. And it was only then, once I started digging and delving and poking and prodding, that I found that where the story was coming from and where it needed to go. Mm-hmm. But it was if my son had said, nah, it's a crap story, then I would never have told it. And it's one of my most, I get people asking me in the middle of summer, oh, tell the Black Bubblegum. It's like, no, it's a Halloween story. You have to have me back at Halloween.
Oh, hey, Tom. Hi, Karen. What's the Steinbeck title? Do you know?
Oh, yes, I do. It's The Affair at Rue de M line. The Affair at Rue, R-U-E for street, D-E-M line. That's what it is.
It's a valley.
And you, sorry, Karen's shouting at us now. Hello.
Hello.
We love you, Karen. We love you, Tom. Ah, dear. I'm not going to tell the story because Reg is my guest, and if I tell the story, then it becomes more about me. Hey, Reggie, do you want to tell a story? I should say that we have actually been going for an hour and 5 minutes now.
I will tell a story, and then maybe we'll plug Hans Christian Andersen one more time.
Okay, yes, we'll do that. We'll do that.
So let's see. When I was 18, I went away to Ithaca College's School of Music, and oh my gosh, I was a total geek. I had Brillo pad hair. I was very overweight. I had no social skills, and I was lonely. I desperately wanted to make a friend. Now, up to this point, some of my friends, all of my friends had been, kind of weird and wild, just like me. And I used to feel kind of embarrassed about being weird. But then I read on the internet that weird is just a side effect of being awesome. So now I feel pretty good about it. Well, for the most part, weird and wild was not what I met at Ithaca College. The guys all wore polo shirts with their collars upturned, and the girls were just so nice. They were just so nice. I was the poor little onion in their petunia patch.
Oh.
And then I met Susie Terwilliger. The first time I saw her, she was trying to cram a guitar into a too small locker. She had big, big Brillo pad hair like me too. She had these huge blue eyes, a beautiful smile, and her eyes just twinkled, and her laugh was so loud. She was funny, she was friendly, and she had a mouth that would have made a pirate blush. She was swearing so much. I later heard that her nickname was Wad. Now, the nickname Wad was short for the formal nickname, which happened to be Fuckwad.
Jeez.
We hit it off right away. Now, her parents lived in Ithaca, and she was from Ithaca, where Ithaca College is, obviously. And I wasn't very close to my parents at the time, so she would invite me over for dinner sometimes. The first time I went over to their house, we sat down at the table, and I couldn't help but notice their heads. I mean, all of the Terwilligers had huge heads, and I'm not talking ego. I am talking like actual heads. They were like gourds. The sound just echoed around inside of their skulls and then blasted out of their faces. Susie had a brother named Bob. Her dad's name was Bill, who taught English at Ithaca College. And her mom's name was Betty, and she taught speed reading with a money-back guarantee. While they were all talking, their lips were smacking, and they were eating heartily, and they were yelling and debating. Oh, finally, a family where I felt like I belonged. They were so wild and weird and so alive. Well, sometimes the Terwilligers would invite me over for special holidays. One year they invited me for Easter. And the first thing I saw when I went through the door was their still standing and decorated, but now defoliated Christmas tree. Bob was off doing some fantastic science experiment, and Bill was writing the next great American novel, while Betty was in the guest room hoovering the guest rug in her panties. Her breasts were like nippled salamis, just swaying to and fro as she hoovered the rug. Well, Susie and I stayed friends after we graduated. We graduated the same year. And she moved to New York City to become a guitarist in a big band. And I stayed in Ithaca and got married and had a family and became a storyteller. Well, we always kept in touch over the years. And um, Susie started to travel more frequently between New York City and Ithaca because as her parents aged, they started to have all kinds of health problems, including her dad. Now, Bill had had testicular cancer, which left him, as he said, with only one nut on the tree. Well, Susie started coming back and forth, and it was starting to really wear on her, and she was trying to maintain this career in New York City. And so one day she called me and she said, Reg, I really need some help. Could you help me? Yeah, sure. Now, I had kept in touch with her parents over the years too. They were like a second family to me. So she said, well, listen, I got this fucking gig on fucking Thursday. And my dad's got this fucking appointment. And so I was wondering, could you take him to the fucking appointment for me? He's got a fucking rash. Yeah, sure, I said, no problem. So she gives me all the details. She tells me that Betty's going to go with Bill to the appointment because she's going to go into the appointment with him so she can listen to everything that the doctor is going to tell Bill because Bill is going to forget. But Betty's going to forget on the way home. So I have to go into the appointment because I have to remember everything that Betty and Bill are going to forget. Of course, I said. Well, I have been through this drill with my parents. So it's Thursday morning. I pick Betty and Bill up, and the whole way, Bill is just talking, just a mile a minute. We get out of the car, and Betty says to me, I couldn't hear a word that man said, but I know he's wrong. And we get into the appointment, and, we get shown into the examination room. Now, it's critical that you understand what the examination room looked like in order to understand what's about to happen. The room is small. You've been in these. Now, on the right-hand side, there's a computer desk, and that's where the doctor is going to sit. There are 3 chairs in the room. 2 of them are along the back wall. Betty sits in the chair closest to the computer desk, closest to the doctor. Bill sits in the chair furthest from the doctor, but right next to the examination room, which is jutting out at an angle in the room. There's the 3rd chair is now on the other side of the examination table. It's so high and the room is so small, I can practically rest my chin on it. So before the doctor comes in, this young, handsome nurse just sidles in. He's got a basket full of vials and tubes, and he deftly uses his blood pressure cuff and stethoscope on Bill. And when he leaves, Betty winks at me and says, my, he was well equipped, wasn't he? Well, the doctor comes in. She's wearing a white lab coat and very quiet shoes. She sits down and starts to read Bill's file. And then she makes a little small talk with him. She says, well, Mr. Twilliger, it seems that you must be retired from something. What was it that you used to do? And he looks at her and with absolute straight face, he says, Doc, I was a professor of pornography at Ithaca College. And Betty here, she was my research assistant. And Betty goes, and a damn good one, too. Well, that was met with a very awkward silence. Then she says, well, Mr. Twilliger, it seems that you have a rash. Would you like to show it to me? No problem, Doc. Now he puts his hand on the examination table and he starts to rock himself. Because, he's got to get a little propulsion going. And he's pulling himself up and he's pulling himself up. And then he stands and quicker than a wink, I see his hand go to the back waistband of his sweatpants. And for the first time, I think to myself, oh my good God, where is this rash? And like a marble down a chute, his pants fall to the floor. And I am now looking at a member of the family I have never met before. Now, listen, I've seen my fair share of these things, and I got to tell you, they don't age well. Well, the doctor gives him a prescription for an ointment, and I tell him, look, I am not applying that ointment. When we get back, I tell Susie what happened, and she laughs in a way that makes me think she thought it might go that way. Well, Betty and Bill keep aging, and they start to have a lot more health problems. Bill gets dementia, Betty starts getting Alzheimer's. But Sue, she's an amazing, amazing daughter. She promises them that she will never put them into a nursing home and that they will die at home. And so she and Mick, her husband, moved back to Ithaca to take care of them full time. So Betty, one night, she doesn't like to use her walker to go to the bathroom. And so she gets up one night and she falls and breaks her leg. She has to go to a rehab facility, and Bill is absolutely beside himself. He is so worried about Betty. He's so worried that she's going to die. So Susie and Mick take Bill to go and see Betty, and he sits on her bed, and for 2.5 hours, they just sit holding hands, talking, and leaning in like teenagers in love. They are married, Bill and Betty Terwilliger, for 72 years. After they die, Mick and Susie decide to live in that house. They have been married for 34 years. They sit in that same house that Susie's parents lived in. It's still the same couch. They live the exact same way. They've still got the defoliated Christmas tree. And, they sit there and they smack, and their faces boom out of their mouths, and they lean into one another. They lean in to love.
That was so good. Yes. That's a really good story. That's an amazing story. And to say you're not funny, good Lord, you're brilliant at what you do. I just
Thank you.
Massive admiration. Massive admiration for you. Yeah. Compassion and love. That's it. Yes. That's exactly what happens in your stories. Yeah. I think that's what the difference is between some other people that I've seen and what you do, is that your stories have the compassion and love that other people don't seem to have in theirs. I mean, this is a gross generalization. Yeah. But that's why I like you so much. I think that's what it is. Yeah. So, yes.
Thank you.
Lots of kudos. Yay. So tell me, Regi, what are we doing tomorrow at 11 o'clock?
Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we are going to the Hans Christian Andersen statue. And I'm going to tell, you're going to host me, and I am going to tell The Ugly Duckling.
Yes. So the Hans Christian Andersen Storytelling Center, for, I don't know, a very long time, have been holding a storytelling festival at the statue in Central Park in New York City. This is the first year it's gone virtual because of COVID-19 and the coronavirus. And it's also the very first year when it's only Hans Christian Andersen stories that are being told. Mm-hmm. And I think that's quite remarkable. And as someone that went into this festival knowing maybe 5 stories of Hans Christian Andersen's and not being a massive fan, mm-hmm. I have discovered so many good Hans Christian Andersen stories. And all of the storytellers that I've seen, because I'm the tech guy behind the curtain, because I've seen all these stories over the last 10 episodes, shows, festival events, being told by these incredible storytellers. There are some really good stories. There are some dark ones as well, some very dark stories, which surprised me when I started reading through the book. And tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern time, Eastern summertime, whatever you want to call it, at the Hans Christian Andersen Storytelling Center Facebook page and or YouTube page, you'll get to hear Angela Lloyd. Angela Lloyd is going to be telling a story, and Regi Carpenter is going to be telling a story. Yeah. And there's going to be some...
Which is a phenomenal story.
The Red Shoes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're telling
The Ugly Duckling.
The Ugly Duckling. That's right. And I'm so looking forward to it.
Beautiful story.
It is.
So sad.
Well, a lot of his stories are. There's some, there's some sad and poignant and float off and go to heaven like The Little Mermaid, but then there's stories like The Shadow, which is
There's some good ones out there.
Yeah, there are.
But I don't have the link, my friends. But do you have that link available, Simon?
I can, yes. If you give me one moment, I'm pretty sure that I can pull it up pretty quickly. So what I do want to say is, Regi, thank you so much indeed for joining me on this. I honestly didn't think that we would be this far into the year with me still doing this kind of stuff. I thought that we would all be back in person, but unfortunately,
I did too.
We are not. We're still grappling with this horrible virus and everything else that comes along with it, which is unbelievable. So hang on, I'm still trying to pull up the Hans Christian Andersen website, and it's
Sarah, yeah, the little match girl. Oh my gosh, I love that story.
Yeah, I do too. That was one of the first stories of his that I heard, and I fell in love with it.
She freezes to death and sees her grandmother in this guy.
Yeah. It's a terrible story, but it's such a good story.
I really wanted to I really wanted to change the story a lot, because I really thought it related to immigration, to the kids taken from their parents.
Yeah.
Or children who are different. And it certainly relates with the bullying. They're just horrible to him. And he runs away, and he has no family. He has no one to protect him. And then, he just has one hardship after another. And each one it's a little Dickensian, really, the whole thing. So,
well, it's the same time period, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
And as Sarah says in the comments, we do have global storytellers. I mean, not this week, but we've got storytellers from Denmark and Australia, from all over the place. So it's a really good festival, actually. And if you can make it at 11 o'clock tomorrow, then you will not be disappointed, because Angela Lloyd's going to be there, and Regi Carpenter is going to be sprinkling her magic dust all over Hans Christian Andersen and coming up with some remarkable story. We know it. Well, once again, thank you so much. Everyone, thanks for being here. It's been absolutely marvelous. Thanks for all the comments and the questions. That was cool. The discussion that we came up with was, Regi's just brilliant. Anyway, see you next week. Be cool.
Tomorrow. See you tomorrow. What? Who's your guest next week?
It's a secret. I don't know. I need to find someone.
Well, that's what I tell. Oh, you'll just have to wait. Me too.
No, I've got a couple of calls out to a couple of people, and I'm hoping that they'll join me, but we'll see. All right.
Goodbye, my friends, and goodbye, Simon. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Yes. Sleep well.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.